Tanzania.
So the main international airport is Kilimanjaro, which is just outside of Arusha. Actually, there isn't that many direct flights to Kilimanjaro, though it has improved and been getting better. We have found people flying from the US or Europe or Australia. Sometimes they'd have to fly via another country. The obvious one being Nairobi, and then a connecting flight, because Nairobi is much more of a transport hub. There are some other airlines. So if you fly by the Middle East, Emirates, for example, you'll get flights onto Kilimanjaro. Another big location in Tanzania is Dar es Salaam, but the safaris don't normally start from Dar es Salaam unless you're doing the southern circuit, and Dar es Salaam is obviously your go-to point. I think airline like KLM flies from Europe, from Amsterdam to Dar es Salaam. And then, once you're there, you can get a flight through to Arusha or Zanzibar. Like I mentioned, you do the southern circuit. And then getting around when you're in Tanzania, you'd want to book airport transfers in advance with us. I wouldn't pitch up to an airport and try and look for a taxi or that sort of thing. Book an airport transfer, just takes a lot of the hassle out of it, get you to your accommodation. And then in terms of if you want to, explore the town of Arusha, or if you're in Dar es Salaam or Zanzibar, and that, you could use a combination of, book a guide and a vehicle for the day. If you're staying quite central, some things are in walking distance in the town. And then obviously from the safari aspect, we'll pick you up from your accommodation for the safari.
So when you're planning your visit to Tanzania, if you want to go in peak season, particularly for the migration in the south and central Serengeti, advanced planning is very necessary. There's restricted accommodation available in the national park, and that does get booked up. So pre-booking a year ahead of travel, not really closer than 6 months before travel, would be highly recommended. Also, if you're wanting to go to Zanzibar over the peak festive season for Christmas and New Year, many of the hotels will have a minimum 5-night stay policy, so you've got to factor that into your planning and how long you've got available to travel. And again, those lodges and hotels and resorts do get booked up well ahead of travel. So for peak season, advanced booking is strongly recommended to be able to get your first choice of location.
I would say your most important is most likely malaria. You need some kind of malaria prophylaxis, which it's always best to go and speak to a medical practitioner or a travel clinic about, because there's various types. You would also need a yellow fever vaccination if you come from a yellow fever affected country before entering Tanzania. Other than that, there are some recommended treatments that you can get, but that's always best to speak to a medical practitioner about.
The obvious one is combining it with Kenya. That's the classic circuit, your East Africa safari. You can do it anything from, I think the shortest one we got is about 8 days, but you can do a combination of the two. You'll do a couple of the parks of the northern circuit of Tanzania and some of the parks in Kenya, like the Masai Mara, for example. And then we've got slightly longer ones, which are between 11, 15 days, which will include a few more of those parks in the north as well as Kenya. And then adding on beach time at Zanzibar, that would be your other highlight to add to the safari.
I think one thing to mention is that although Mount Kilimanjaro is extremely popular and now very crowded, there is also an option to climb Mount Meru, which is the neighbouring mountain. That is less booked up, and although very seasonal and can't be done during the long rains, it is a fantastic climbing experience. Spectacular views from the top should the weather be kind, so that is something that would be an off-the-beaten-track option if you want to escape some of the crowds that are on Kilimanjaro nowadays.
My favorite hidden gem of Tanzania was when I did the camping trip. We've got a 7-day, 6-night camping safari. Included an overnight stop at Lake Natron. That was really impressive. I didn't really actually know anything about Lake Natron or what to expect, but seeing that giant sort of salt pan was very impressive. Going out for a sunset walk on the lake. But there's also a lovely hike you can do where you go away from the campsite along the mountain bit over there that's next to it. and you actually come to a beautiful waterfall that you can swim in. So it's quite unexpected doing this hike up to this waterfall in this little lake. So if you are doing a trip to Tanzania, if you're more active and you want a bit more adventure, the camping trip, the stop at Lake Natron to that waterfall, great experience.
So my insider tip, because I have climbed Kilimanjaro a couple of times and with some large groups as well as small groups, is that you need to take extra batteries for your head torch for the summit day, because those do run down as you climb altitude. You want one pair of dry socks and one pair of dry gloves that you keep separate to all your other equipment, and you keep that for the summit day, just to help increase your chances of making it to the summit and to remain comfortable during that long, long day.
Do you expect in season quite a lot of people in the main reserves like Serengeti and Ngorongoro? I think it's an overall tip throughout Southern Africa or Africa as a safari destination. If you want to avoid crowds, try to go in green season or shoulder season rather than peak season.
My insider tip is that if you want to spend a bit more time in Arusha, there's various day trips that you can do from there. Visit to Arusha National Park, for example. I think you can do canoeing in there. I actually didn't do it myself, but that was one tip that or a location we offer to people. And also like the Arusha Snake Park or that sort of thing, you could spend a bit more time in Arusha doing a few things before or after your safari.
I think it's worth remembering that as well as the main island of Zanzibar, there are lots of smaller islands off Zanzibar. So if you want to escape the main crowds, particularly of travelling in peak season, considering some of those, they might be slightly more expensive to get to and stay at, but some of those small islands do offer a fantastic beach experience and a little bit more privacy and quietness compared to staying on the main island. So when you're in Tanzania, it is very important that you ask permission before taking photographs of anybody. It is also great fun if you can learn a few words of Swahili in order to engage more personally with the people you meet along the way.
And never take photos of any government buildings or officials.
Yeah, Zanzibar is actually, it's a destination people go to because they want to be on the beach and swimming and, just having a good time, relaxing and that, but also to be a bit more aware of cultural concerns in Zanzibar, certainly for ladies and that, the island being mostly of Muslim faith, you'd want to wear or dress conservatively, certainly in Stone Town or more public areas when you're not on the beach. And even for the men, for that matter, slightly longer shorts, just dress conservatively, be respectful of, the island's beliefs or not.
So like and subscribe. Also feel free to join a 6-part email course that will answer everything you need to know about going on safari in the link below, and check out our website. We have many tours of all various durations and styles for each country in Eastern Southern Africa.